There we go. Okay. Bizarre. Not real sure what that was about, but all right. Let's see if anybody wants to hop on and hang out with us. Hey, it did work. There's somebody. Hail Mary Recordings. What's up, man? Pardon me. Get that going. Jack Collins, hello from Louisiana. Hello, Jack, here from Indiana. Cole is here. I think that's formerly Big Cole. Divinity Guitars. Right now, all four he is. So. Divinity Guitar says, "What's the new news for the week?" Well, if you follow the news, there's big doings with the post office going on right now. As far as guitar gear news, I don't know, man. I don't know that I really heard anything. I did just see a YouTube thumbnail from somebody about a month ago that said, that said Guitar Center is demanding demanding employees give back their paychecks, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Where do people come up with this? What part of India are you at? Central Indiana. No, I'm not going to divulge exactly where I'm at because, security. Hey, Park Kingery's here. Park, a couple of your pedals made an appearance in a video this week. Sean is Cubs fan 1. Says, "Hi, Robert. Just bought a Fender American Pro HSS Strat and 3-tone Sunburst yesterday, and I'm digging it." Nice, man. I have never owned a good Strat. I really ought to have just a good Strat hanging around, and I don't have one, and I've never had one. I would really like one. So I don't need an expensive one, high end one or anything, but I am very much considering. 10S has got some really, really cool Strat or S style guitars. They've got one right now that I saw on their website the other day. I may have to pull the trigger on that. But Sean Y is Cubs fan 1. Thank you very much for the super chat, my friend. Thank you. Varlo Obscure, Barry Miller, Joseph 10 Fingers 6 Strings Riccati is here. Park says, "Awesome. So I'm so behind on my the video I'm talking about hasn't gone up yet. It won't be up for a couple weeks. I'm just saying I used a couple of your pedals in a video that I recorded this week." Divinity Guitar says, "True, I know will be temporarily moving to Indy. Guitar Max, your brother, finding all kinds of weird guitars, DNC guitars. Really neat. You following Guitar Build Off? I am not familiar with Guitar Build Off. But Max seems to get his hands on all kinds of cool stuff to demo. So I saw he put up a video yesterday. I didn't see, he was up there, full knight armor in the thumbnail. The title mentioned something about a neck 3 shred guitar, but I haven't had a chance to watch the video yet. So I don't know what it was that he demoed, but he gets his hands on all kinds of cool stuff. I'm curious, why are you temporarily moving to Indy? And where are you at now? Joey's Van Ostrand is removing poison ivy. I hope that means that you're removing poison ivy from your property somehow, and you're not removing poison ivy aftermath from your body. I'm real allergic to poison ivy. That stuff's no fun. And I seem to get into it every single year, and I have no idea where it even is in my yard. But I still managed to find it. I gotta go out and do a bunch of yard work today, actually, before my neighbors get real pissed at me. Barry Miller says, I bought 2 high-end Fenders, a Tele Nashville and Strat. Both had bad fret sprout. Yeah, Fender's not, unfortunately, Fender's not immune from that happening from time to time, and that's gonna, seems to be the case with all, the big guitar companies, I think Fender's quality has improved quite a bit over the last, 10 years or so over what it was like the early 2000s, when, they had a lot of sharp frets on, and a lot of, warped necks and stuff on their guitars. During that decade, they weren't bad, and it was stuff that could be straightened out. But it was kind of disappointing to see right out of the box, and it happened fairly often. So, but I think about 2009 or so, they kind of started to turn the corner with that. Yeah. Vinny's moving up here from Texas. That's where I moved up here from. Whereabouts in Texas? I grew up in Houston. Give me a moment. I'm going to text my wife. Hey, Carl Jackson's here. What storms are going on out in your part? I thought you were out in like Iowa or something. Were there storms out in that part of the world? GoobTubers here. Cole says, Robert, are you giving Metallica drive-in tickets? Metallica's coming coming to my area via a drive-in concert. I'll do everything I can. I will do everything I can. However, Metallica tickets they're hard to come. They went. I got to see them about a year ago. About a year and a half ago now, and that was the first time I'd gotten to see him in like 20 years or more. Just because every time they would come to town, they were, something would get in the way. I'd have something else going on. I couldn't make it, or, I didn't have the money, or, something like that. And I thought the same thing was going to happen this time around. And, a good buddy of mine, who was a guitar buyer at Sweetwater, called me up literally an hour and a half before the show and said, hey, if you want to go, I got a ticket for you. And so I got to go. But tickets for that show went on sale like over a year in advance, and they sold out in minutes. So I would have had a prayer anyway. And I imagine the same thing's going to happen again. Metallica comes to my area, and those tickets don't last long at all. I sure would like to see him live again, though, man. That was the best show I've ever been to. That was a lot of fun. Storms on Monday. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's right. There was some real crazy, windy thunderstorms and stuff ripping through the Midwest on Monday. We got a little bit of that too. Dennis O'Rourke, thank you so very much for the top chat, man. Thank you. I guess now is it still? I guess it's not a top chat anymore. Now it's a super chat. The old YouTube live stream thing had a top chat in it. It says, Robert, how the hell are you? Two questions. What kind of coffee are you drinking? And have you ever tried the Sophia 292 Tremlos? As far as coffee, today is Green Mountain caramel something or other. No, this is what caramel cream? I think it is Green Mountain caramel cream. I don't know this or vanilla vanilla caramel something. I don't know. This is I like flavored coffees, but this is one of the flavors that my wife likes, and we of all the ones we have here, though the K cups anyway that we have at the moment, they're all her picks. Mine are gone. So I'll get more when I go to the store this weekend. But yeah, it's a Green Mountain caramel foo something or other. Um, as far as the Sophia 292 tremolos, I am not familiar with them. Matter of fact, this is the first mention. This is the first I've ever heard of them, to be honest. So I'm going to say no, that I have not tried them. Let me Google that real quick. And Sophia 292 tremolo. Sophia tremolos. Looks kind of like, Okay, so it's an actual tremolo system. I didn't know. First I was thinking it was, might be a tremolo pedal or something like that, but weird. I have seen these. I've seen them, yeah. Yeah, these do look cool. I haven't played anything. I haven't played anything with them on there yet, but I have seen these. These are pretty cool. 60-1 tuning ratio. Wow. That's a high tuning ratio. 60-1, 40-1 thumb wheel. Wow. Pricey though, 300 something bucks a piece for the system. Cool. I'll have to check that out. I don't have a guitar that needs a new tremolo system, but I suppose that doesn't mean one can't be acquired at some point. Kyle Jackson says 100 mile per hour winds for the entire center of the state. Wow. I don't, it didn't kick up that much for us. We kicked up a fair amount, but not like it did out there. Still have people without power looking for a week. Wow. I hope the folks out there in Iowa get everything straightened out sooner rather than later. Just a regular reminder, man, from Mother Nature, just how small we really are. Quote Patrick Swayze. Serenity Guitar says, need to find good gunplays, range, and great places to jam and beer. I'm the wrong guy to ask about a gun place or a gun range because I'm not a gun guy. Um, just no, they're just not my thing. Nothing good can come of me owning a gun. Um, great places to jam. Oh man, they're God. I haven't, I don't get out too much as much as I used to because all the good rock clubs have all closed up now. There used to be a whole bunch of rock clubs around town, like Visions and Hot Shots and uh, Drifties and Clancy's and all those bunch of places like that. And unfortunately, they've all closed up. There's when that happened, all the bands that I used to go see, they've all since most of them anyway have all since disbanded. Um, so I mean, I think they're slowly getting replaced, and there are some other places to play, but it's all they've all kind of popped up since I've been out of the been off the circuit the last few years. So I'll do some research on that though. But 1 hour south of Indy, where I mean, that sounds like Bloomington area. In which case, there's all kinds of. I mean, there's a big music scene in Bloomington. You wouldn't need to drive up here to Indianapolis for down there. Bloomington's a college town. Plenty of beer down there too. Let's see. Epic Esquire is here. Welcome to you. Pardon me. Varlot Obscure says I could not get the CR6. Instead, I'm getting a Court X500. I'd like to hear your thoughts. I mean, my vote's the CR6. The Court X500. I can't place that guitar off the top of my head. I'm not familiar with it. I don't know if that's a new model or an old model. I mean, Court guitars are fine. Nothing wrong with Court guitars. But I am extremely biased in that because I love my Schecter CR6. I play that guitar quite a bit. I'm curious why you couldn't get the CR6 though. Listen, Musician's Friend has that guitar on sale for like $449 right now. That's like 40% off or something ridiculous. Doc Amos Roxy says, just sat down with a Dagwood sandwich and RGD is on. How many different kinds of meat you got on that Dagwood? Joey Van Ostrin says, Two Notes just released the 16 ohm Captor X. They did. I saw, Henning he posted a picture of like 5 Captor X's or something that he's getting ready to demo. But yes, they did. I have a good friend of mine works for Two Notes. Joey Van Ostrin says, I put a reserve on a Harley Benton Amarok 6-string. Ships in early September. Which one is the Amarok? Google's getting a workout today. Amarok. Is that the headless thing? That's a shred guitar. Is the neck through? Insanely heavy. I need to demo some of those Harley Benton guitars. Hunter at Aggie Fish is getting all the Harley Benton action right now. No, not a Hutton. Those do look cool. There's a 6. Progressive series, yada. Green one's cool if it comes in a 6-string. I don't have any use for a 7. There's a baritone. There's a 6. Do they come with tremolos? Check price at Toman. Come on, Harley Benton. Why do you know? 400. Wow, under $500. I think they ship it for like 50. Interesting. Cool looking guitar, man. Congratulations. Congratulations. I hope you enjoy it. Hope it turns out to be cool. Now, I don't really think I've ever heard anybody complain about a Harley Benton guitar. They seem to be doing it right. Epic Esquire says, so you have to buy a different Captor X if you have a separate 16 ohm head. They make the Captors and the Captor X are each, they make a specific model for each different resistance. So there's an 8 ohm version, there's a 16 ohm version. The original Captor, there's a 4 ohm version. If you happen to be running a 4 ohm cab or a 4 ohm head. But when they came out with the Captor X originally, which has been out, a little over a year now, I guess, they only released the 8 ohm version, which obviously is the most common. So, but Marshall guys like me that like to run their heads at 16 ohms didn't have an option yet, so they just came out with the 16 version. Jameson Newhouse. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the super chat. Appreciate it. Says, hey man, love your channel. Have you ever played a Bernie Les Paul from the late 80s? I recently got mine. It's better than every Gibson I've ever tried. Yes, I love Bernie guitars. I love Bernie Les Pauls. Matter of fact, I've always wanted one. There is one between a couple of buddies of mine has been getting passed back and forth between the two of them for about 10 years now. And I keep hoping that thing lands my way one of these days, but it hasn't yet. I agree. But those '80s Bernie Les Pauls were better than anything Gibson was putting out, and that's they're getting pretty valuable. There was three of those Japanese brands that were making Les Paul copies back in the 70s and early 80s. You had the Bernies, you had the Bernies, the Tokais, and the Grecos. And all three of those, I think the Tokais, I believe, the Tokais or the Grecos are actually the most valuable for some weird reason. But the Bernies were always my favorite. And man, do they sound killer. Great guitars. I'd love to have one. Doc Amos Roxy, thanks for the super chat, the mega super chat. Thank you, sir. So, been meaning to hit you up, as I'm sure the Anderton crews of the world are good. I see that T-shirt. Yes, I do have one of the T-shirts from my Teespring shop pinned up there at the top of the chat. If anybody would like to support the channel, and I haven't figured out how to clean this up in my Teespring shop yet. There's some T-shirts, that are like, that looks like the same T-shirt, but one's $21.99, one's $25.99, one's $23.99. Buy the middle one. The middle one is the best quality. That's usually the $23.99 version. Buy the middle one. It's cheaper than the most expensive one. It's only $2 more than the middle one, and good quality T-shirts. supports the channel, supports me, and you get a T-shirt for your troubles. Thank you very much once again for the super chat. Very very kind of you. Serenity Guitars. He's moving here to my area soon. Says nearest Guitar Center or retail. There's a Guitar Center and a Sam Ash right around the corner from each other on the north side of Indianapolis, and there's also a Guitar Center down in Greenwood, which is the big suburb on the south side of Indianapolis. And then of course there's some smaller shops up there by the Guitar Center and the Sam Ash on the north side. There's also a music go round right across the street, and like I said, there's just there's still a sprinkling of small shops. They're still around. Arthur's is still around. I think IRC out on the west side is still around. I think they had finally closed up the Castleton store. Yeah. So, yep. There's a few small shops still around. I think there's if and I'm not sure what town you're moving to. If you're an hour south of Indianapolis, I'm still going to assume it's the Bloomington area, which I think they still got a few shops down there as well. I haven't been to Bloomington in a long time though. John Chattenberry is here. Welcome to you, sir. Serenity says, check D&C guitars if you're a diehard Metallica fan. Interesting. No, I'm not familiar with them. I will check them out. Barlow Obscure says the X500 has a neck-through ash body, AMG 6081, Floyd Rose Special, and it's under $550. Interesting. Pardon me. Kabiath, I can't pronounce your screen name. You know that by now. Says, Ibanez, Schecter, Jackson, Charvel. I keep thinking of these as interchangeable. Are any of these distinctive enough to sell it apart from the others? Let's face it. They're all direct competitors of each other. And by that token, you probably threw a Washburn and Dean in there on top of them. But yeah, they all do feature very similar features to each other because like I said, that's their primary competitors. I mean, they're competing against each other a lot more. They're competing against Gibson and Fender and some of those other brands, the other big names, PRS, and it's all kind of coming down to which of those brands can put together the same set of features at the best quality at the best price, and various different sets of features. As much as I've and I still think Schecter is one of the best bangs for your buck, arguably the best bang for your buck brand that's on the market today. I didn't buy a Schecter for a long time because I like really thin necks, and all of their necks were a little bit more in line with like a little bit fatter, like a Fender C shaped neck. Which isn't it's not a baseball bat or anything like that by any means, but it was not the Ibanez Wizard neck that is known to be really really thin. And then Schecter came out with the SLS neck profile, which is right in line with those, and I now have two Schecters that have the SLS neck on it. Jackson Charvels, their necks are kind of in between. That the big fender neck, the fat Schecter neck, and the Ibanez thin neck, and it's real comfortable for a lot of people. Um, they were also one of the first ones to come out with a compound fretboard radius. Um, so, and that compound fretboard radius is real popular for a lot of people. Um, so as far as neck shapes, I mean, I think that kind of seems to be what most people gravitate towards. You know, yeah, Ibanez, of course, most of their guitars, most of their upper end guitars will come with the Marzio pickups. Jackson Charvel are real big on Seymour Duncan. Schecter uses Duncan EMG, and now Schecter's getting real big into their own USA pickups, which I think are really good. So I mean, they do have subtle differences. It's just for a specific player, who wants this set of features. I want a thin neck. I want a carved top with a quilted maple carved top with dual humbuckers and coil taps and a Floyd Rose and on and on and on. Which of these big name companies offer a guitar that has all of these features? Which one's the best quality? Which one's the best price? And that's where the competition begins. So who can do that? Who can earn that customer's business? Joey Van Austrian says, any interest in a rack mount SansAmp PSA1? I've got mine on reverb. No, but I am planning on adding a rack mount SansAmp RBI bass preamp here at some point. Maybe towards the end of the year. I've got a few other pieces of gear that I gotta buy first, and pay off my Guitar Center credit card at the moment. John Taylor says, Good Jackson's the best of the three. Cobbyhouse says, skip the Harley Benton for now. You have better gear in the room with you. Oh man, that's both debatable. Harley Benton's making some really, really nice stuff right now, man. And they're gaining a lot of steam, and I think that's just going to continue for them. Where are we at? How many people we got in here right now? 33 concurrent viewers with 154 playbacks, chat rate 5, whatever that means. Viewer activity, stream health, excellent. Thank you AT&T for bumping up my internet, doubling my internet speed at no cost. Good looking honky just left a comment in the chat that says, can you see me nude playing like Chuck Berry? LOL, thanks Peter. And report. Pornography or sexually explicit material. All right, where was I? Robert Clark says, hello, Rob. Who's Rob? Park Kingery says, I want a driftwood head bad. I do too. Those things are pretty badass looking. Driftwood and what's the other boutique? The Omega, I think is the brand name. Both of those heads look absolutely kick ass, but I think they're both also really, really expensive. Sugar Kitty says, Ibanez has multiple lines, some far better, particularly if you want a mahogany body. Schecter's great all around. Jackson, you want high end, the low end Charvel in particular has quality issues. Yeah, Ibanez, they do have an absolute shitload of models, and their model numbers are all RGX1 FL 28. It's a model number about that long that there is a science to it, but I've never been able to wrap my head around it. Um, Robert Clark's off topic, but smoking cigarettes. I just had another cig. Each one is killing me. I see you have the vape. I tried pens and did nothing. I told I need a good one. Does this really work? I've been using an e-cig for going on 7 years now or something, which is far longer than I intended. Um, but I've been tobacco free since I had my last cigarette the day that we bought and moved into this house. I had my last cigarette out in the driveway after we got the truck unloaded, and I flipped it out in the street, and that was the last cigarette I ever smoked. Gargoyle84 says, "Hello again, Robert. Kind of a beginner question. I'm attempting to learn pentatonic scales. But what in the world are root notes?" Essentially, best way to think of it is, what key you're playing in. If you are playing in, let's see. Just as an example, and this is a baritone guitar, so this isn't necessarily going to add up to what I'm, going to try to explain here. But if you're playing minor pentatonic in the key of A, again, in this one, I think that's actually an E, but but we'll pretend it's an A for the moment. So, that scale. Your root note is the first note in that scale, which obviously also identifies which key you're playing in. Now that note is going to move around depending on which position on the fretboard that you're playing that scale in. But generally speaking, your root note is the key that you're playing in. Is the best way to describe it. Best way to describe it simply, anyway, and describe it from a guy who, like myself, is I'm not exactly a music theory scale wizard. I use minor pentatonic and minor and major scale occasionally, and bits and pieces of Dorian scale, and that's really about it. Most when you guys see me playing solos and stuff in my videos, just about every single one of them is one of those. Gray Thrasher's here. Welcome to you. Good looking honky. That must be earlier. I already got rid of him. We should have already gotten rid of him. J.M. Page is here. Welcome to you. Oh, hey, Great Thrasher says, "Have a coffee on me," in the super chat. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I saw that come in when I was, when I had that guitar in my lap there for a minute and got distracted and forgot to go down there and check that out. My apologies. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Thank all of you. All of you. Thank you to all of you for being here and hanging out and supporting the channel and all that kind of stuff. good-looking honky was clogging up the chat there for a while, wasn't he? Famer7 says, do you have any tips for people learning guitar with big, fat, chubby fingers? You mean like mine? Speed, yeah, I have, my big, fat, chubby fingers have one very unique skill that I've developed over the course of my life, and that is, extreme flexibility. I can just about touch the back of my hand with both of my pinkies. I'm fortunate in that regard. So, I would say stretching exercises with your fingers, and do some, do some quick warm ups, and I try to, hammer-ons and pull-offs and stuff like that are great. If you can get to the point with certain riffs where you can pick every single one of those notes as you're hammering on and pulling off at the same time, I think that will probably help you as well. At least it did for me. Savannah Guitar says, check out Rob Chappers. I'm not sure. I like Rob Chappers. I like Rob quite a bit, actually. Hey, here's a troll comment left on the channel. Frank Pusateri commented, short-sighted perspective on tone, as usual. I just got the alert. I don't know what video that's on, but I'm sure that comment will make an appearance in another video again here down the road. Sugar Kitty says most of those features are available from Kiesel as well. Another choice, but more money. Yes, that's true. Kiesel, it's kind of hard to throw Kiesel into because all those other brands all make import guitars, and while Jackson and Charvel obviously are an American-made company, Kiesel is all made in the U.S. And I think they're getting to the point now. They don't even start until up over the $1,000 mark, I believe. But all those other brands all make more affordable import options, being from China, Indonesia, Mexico, depending on the company, Korea, in Schecter's case. And then, of course, the real high-end Ibanez stuff comes from Japan. Joey Van Ostrin says, Robert has bass presets too. Ha, if it sells due to you saying something about it on your show, I'll give you 10% of the sale price through PayPal. I appreciate that, but that's not necessary. I don't need a cut of your cut of your Sans Amp reverb unit. More. Oh, well, Doc Amos Roxy. All right, we know him. Oops. Sorry, Doc. Amos Roxy, I accidentally blocked a... I meant to approve one of your comments, and I clicked the wrong button, and it hit it instead. Hmm. Mr. Wade File, I think I'm pronouncing that right, says, "Hey Robert, have you checked out the Golden Plexi pedal? Golden Plexi, I think, is that that's the Tone City, the Tone City pedal, I believe, right? If the little mini pedal. If so, if I'm thinking of the right one, it's a killer pedal. I actually own the Model M, which is the dual pedal version of that. The Model M is my very favorite Marshall in a box distortion pedal. That thing sounds awesome. Famer7 says, "Is that a Chapman guitar? I heard they suck. Any truth to that?" I can't speak for every guitar they've ever built, but yes, the one that I just picked up and had in my lap a few minutes ago is a Chapman. Mine's an ML1 baritone, and I did a demo of it on my channel here a couple of months ago, right after I got it, and I had heard prior, because I waited several months for that guitar because it was on back order, and when it finally arrived, I had heard in the meantime so many people telling me, "Oh, Chapman's really got so many quality problems and sharp frets and warp necks and finish flaws and this, that, and the other." I pulled mine out of the box and it was absolutely flawless. There was not one thing wrong with it, not one single thing. I mean, it was as perfect out of the box as I could have possibly hoped. So, I think a lot of that noise that people throw at Chapman guitars, I think a lot of that is related to when the whole world got pissed at him at the end of the year last year when another YouTube channel went out of their way to troll him and make his life miserable. And not saying that Rob wasn't entirely at fault, but there was a lot of stuff that the other guy brought up that was absolutely baseless. So, but when that happened, unfortunately, the perception of the world was, all of a sudden now Rob's a douchebag, and like I said, I think he got a raw deal with that whole thing, man. That none of that was really his fault. So I think that's the reason why a lot of people say the Chapman guitars suck. I don't buy it for a minute. If my Chapman is any representation of most of the rest of the stuff they put out, don't buy it don't believe any of that negative hype at all. I like mine a lot. So. Mark Ramsey says, "I had that Chapman baritone for like a week and took it back to GC." Yeah, I'd be curious to know what made you return it as well. Constable 1976 says, "What does an induction plate on a single coil 6K pickup do?" I have no idea. Yeah, I'm the wrong guy to ask there. That's a question for one of that's a question for one of the more techie electronics related channels. Colin Scott, or I think the Guitologist gets into a lot of that stuff. Unfortunately, I'm not an electronics engineer. I'm lucky I know how to that I know how to play the damn things at all. Michael Coyle says, "Thoughts on the BS surrounding Epiphone's 59 Les Paul issue. I'm assuming that means reissue. On pushing back dates of the issue, messed up and conflicting specs. Epi really screwed the pooch on this guitar." First I've heard of it, to be honest with you. I'm not, part of my job, my full time job right now, part of my full time job is honestly seems like the vast majority of my full time job right now is, telling people how far out their back orders are because there is so much inventory that is on, so such a huge lack of inventory right now. Everything is on back order. You can't find a $100 condenser microphone right now to save your life. MXL 990s, AT, Audio Technica AT 2020s, microphone, $100 condenser mics like that you see absolutely everywhere. Can't find them. Shure SM7Bs, which is a $400 broadcast mic. Those are, you're not going to be able to buy one of those anytime soon until like November at the earliest. This pandemic just screwed everything up. So everything is experiencing a serious backlog. Some companies are getting caught up faster than others. And Epiphone's factory is right over there in China. So and that's where that was the ground zero point of this pandemic to begin with. So I'm sure they've experienced plenty of their own setbacks, and I got to assume that that's related to it. But without knowing the details of anything else, that's really about all that I can say about it. That's the first I've heard of it. But all I hear about are shipping delays and manufacturing delays and all that stuff. I'm actually getting tired of hearing about it. Been tired of it, but it's really been wearing on me the last couple of weeks. Mark Ramsey says he took his Chapman back to because he says the neck and frets were very rough. Wasn't impressed at all. Surprised, like I said, mine were perfect. Absolutely perfect. I didn't even need to. Out of the box, I didn't need to adjust the truss rod. The strings that came on it, because it's a baritone, they strung it up with 12s, which are way heavy for my taste. So I put a lighter, my lighter set of strings on it that that are more comfortable for me to play. And then I had to adjust the truss rod, of course. But right out of the box, it played fantastic. The neck was a little fatter than I was expecting, I guess, because just because I've gotten used to playing my Schecters and BC Riches and blazing fast, my Music Man Majesty, that one's got a thin neck on it too. I just got used to playing those. So the baritone, or the Chapman baritone was a little more Fender-ish profile. So. Okay, Mark Ramsey says he did a video on it on his channel. I have to check that out. Jay and Page says, going old school here, what's your verdict on new Kramer versus old Kramer? I haven't played any of the new Kramers yet, but I can already tell you I'm gonna go old Kramer all day long. Just because that's my era, and I own an old Kramer. I know what those guitars are about. And they're badass. And I know Gibson's putting a lot more effort into the Kramer brand than they did initially. Initially, they just basically told somebody, here, build guitars, put this logo and headstock on it, and call it Kramers and call it good, and and they were absolute garbage. Thanks, Henry. But the new ones I have not yet played.
I know I've seen several demo. Max actually, Guitar Max demoed one here on his channel just a couple of weeks ago, and he had some. One of the cheap ones too. It was like $159 Beretta or something like that, and he had some pretty good things to say about it. So yeah, I don't know. I may have to pick up a $159 Beretta, and I mean, I could swap out pickups if those suck. That's not hard, but blows my mind how companies are making better guitars cheaper and cheaper every single year. Hey Robert, have you checked out the Golden Plexi? Oh, I already answered that one. All right. Famer7, Robert, what's your favorite guitar? Favorite guitar that I own? Music Man Majesty. Hands down, no question. Jack Rose is here. Welcome to you. Says, hello, Robert. Why did Gibson stop making the Gibson grabber bass? Yeah, I mean, I wasn't in the room when that decision was made, but I mean, Gibson they're known for their basses, particularly the Thunderbird. They're known for their basses, but they're a guitar company. They're a guitar company. The Thunderbird's been around forever, and that'll probably be the one bass model that they always have. But the grabber basses were, I mean, those things are kind of big and awkward too. I mean, they could double as boat paddles. They sounded good. A lot of people did like them, but they're big, bulky instruments. So I'm not sure why they discontinued them. Just I wasn't with some of the other basses, all the other basses and stuff that are out of the market. Those I could see why those would have fallen out of popularity. Mark Ramsey says, "Hey Robert, just want to say, dig your channel and content. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Appreciate it very, very much. Very, very much." If you want a very good bass or guitar, get a BC Rich. Agreed. BC Rich have put out their share of clunkers over the years, but generally speaking, their level of quality has been pretty high. Justin Banks says trolls suck. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. But I sure as hell have a lot of fun monetizing their stupidity. Just finished a video about that last night, as a matter of fact. Mad Matt 55. Hi, it says, hi, Robert, from over here in England. Good afternoon, sir, from over here in the U.S. Kowiel says, Robert, I've never asked about straps and strap locks. Do you have any preference? Straps, the strap itself, depending on the guitar anyway, I tend to, the wider the better. I like, I'm not going to complain if I'm using a 2-inch or a 2.5-inch strap, but I generally prefer a 3-inch. Maybe maybe a 4 if it's a really heavy instrument. Especially something with a suede, like a velvet suede backside to it, because I find that a lot more difficult to slide across my clothing. If it's something that has like a neck heavy guitar or something. As far as strap locks go, I like the Shallers the best. I've used Dunlops plenty of times, plenty in the past as well, and I've had good luck with all of them. Between the Dunlops and the Shallers. I like the Shallers the best. I think they're a little bit more. I think they're a little beefier, a little bit more stable, and a good alternative to the Shallers actually is the Guitar Center's Proline brand of strap locks, because it's basically the Shaller design for 40% cheaper or something like that. So I've used those plenty and had real good luck with those. So. G says, "What's up with the Epi 59 Les Paul? I did see it on one channel only. It's out there." I guess I need to get up and up on what's going on in the Epiphone world here recently. Joel Bateman says, "I like Dunlop 9 strings." I do too, actually. I've got a box of those sitting back there. They're not my, Ernie Balslinkies are my first choice of electric guitar string, but I do also like Dunlops, and I do use Dunlops from time to time. I keep a box of them stashed just for, just to have them, laying around, partially sometimes to try something different, and longer, like guitars that have, bigger headstocks, because the Dunlop strings, for some reason, are a lot longer than everything else, so we got a little more on the ends of them to wrap around the tuning machine posts on like baritone guitars and big headstocks and stuff like that. So Mikey Gabbard says, "Several months ago I switched to NYXL 9s, never looking back." A lot of people like those NYXLs, but those things are expensive. $10-12 a set. If I'm, when I pay that kind of money, I mean, I do also like elixirs. And on like my guitars that I don't play quite as often, I tend to put a set of elixirs on them just so I don't have to, pisses me off when I restring a guitar, one that I don't play very often, and hang it on the wall, and then go to grab it again a month or two later, and the strings are already starting to corrode after I played on them once. So I started putting elixirs on those guitars to get a little bit more life out of them, and it has worked. It has gotten a lot more life out of those guitars, or out of the strings rather. So. But yeah, I'm not a D'Addario guy. A buddy of mine gave me a box of D'Addario 10s for Christmas last year. I'm gonna be forever going through those things. Justin Banky says, "Try to PRS MT15. Yeah, they're badass. They are badass. I want one of those pretty bad, as a matter of fact. But if I buy, the last thing I need right now is another lunchbox head. God, I've got plenty of them, but they do sound really, really good. And that's actually the only one I know of, or at least maybe the first one that's come out that I know of that actually has full size. That one's got 6L6 power tubes in it. It's only 15 watts, so." Doc Amos Roxy says, "I tried Ernie Ball strings for the first time in recent months. 10s, but I keep breaking that high E way too much. Got to switch." See, that's been my experience with D'Addario. And, for whatever reason, I'm not saying you're right and I'm wrong, or vice versa, but for whatever reason, that's just been my experience with D'Addario. I mean, I rarely break strings, rarely. And the last time I broke a string was like 8 or 9 months ago, and that was the first time, and I can think of in like 2 or 3 years I'd broken a string while I was playing. But D'Addario seemed to be a little bit more susceptible to breaking on me, and for whatever reason, I don't know why, that just seems to be the case. Cole says, "Building my first pedal board, Boss Tuner T3, 2U3, I'm assuming. 80s Ibanez analog delay. Nice, 89. 80s Ibanez Tube Screamer and Boss Flanger. How would you chain these? With those, I would go tuner first. And I don't know what kind of amp you're running them into, or if you're running them in, if you're gonna run, if you have an amp with an effects loop. If you do have an amp with an effects loop, I would run the tuner and the Tube Screamer into the front end, and I would run the Boss Flanger and the Ibanez delay into the effects loop in that order. If you're not using an effects loop and you're running it all into the front end, then I would go tuner, Tube Screamer, Flanger, delay, which is basically the traditional way to do it. Lord Winterheart says, "Any thoughts on the new solar model?" The new solar, solar comes out with a new model like every month. Seriously, I don't, I don't know. I long ago lost track. I would love to be able to get a hold of one of those just to demo. I mean, they look really, really cool, and I've heard nothing but good things about them. But I've yet to have gotten to play them. Because they're direct only. So, and I don't know anybody that has one. But near as I can tell, Ola seems to be doing it right, man. Pedalboards of Doom is here. I'm assuming that's Lee. What's up, buddy? How are you? Says you need a Duchess V40. I have no idea what a Duchess V40 is. Gary Thrasher says, have you tried out the 5150 Stealth 50 watt? I bought one and love it. If you like 5150s, I highly recommend checking it out. One amp I don't have, and I have a 6505 plus 112 combo. That's really like the only EVH head that I have. EVH amp. Well, I got the Piranha, but those are really the only EVH style amps that I have in my arsenal. I don't have any of the EVH brand of the 5150 current EVH brand stuff. People love those things, man. If those are, the EVH, those amps are going to, I think, historically, they're going to go down as the amp of the current decade. Much like the Mesa Boogie, the dual rectifier was in the 2000s, and pardon me, kind of like the dual rec was in the 2000s, and the JCM 800 was back in the 80s. Those EVH amps are really popular. Alrighty, I'm gonna Google. We'll see what a Duchess V40. Oh, it's a Victory amp. Another lunchbox set style head for $1,300. Holy shit! Yeah, those Victory amps are expensive. They are cool though, man. They do sound good. They do sound good. That's a V40 Deluxe. That was $1,700. There's a Duchess series, Countess series. I've never taken a real close look at these. The Kraken series. That seems to be the popular one. I wonder if that one's. What do those sell for? The Kraken or Kraken or however that's pronounced. Hard. Oh, it's the metal. Okay, it's the metal version. Probably why I see so many of them. V4 Kraken. Yeah. No, I must no. Well, no, I take that back. There's a preamp pedal version that sells for $519. So that must be the pedal. What's the head? The head's also $1,300, give or take. Yep, those are pricey. Those are pricey. Emmett Caldwell says, "Have you tried any of the Hot Tone Nano Legacy amps? I have a Freeze B. Sounds pretty good." I played the what do they call it? The Purple Wind, I think it was the Purple one. It was it's basically the one named after the Jimi Hendrix Plexi, uh, modeled after that kind of sound. I played one of those a long time ago. I forget. I think it was like I think we got one in like right at the store, like towards the tail end of while I was there. It was pretty cool. Needs the right cab, which I guess is true with any amplifier, but seemed pretty good. For a tiny little amp that you could literally fit in a coat pocket or something. TND Fam says this question is kind of weird for me. My friend from Germany said he's using a motor oil for cleaning fretboard. What do you think about it? I don't know. Is he using it for cleaning it, or is he using it for conditioning it? I mean, I can see somebody using motor oil for conditioning, like a rosewood fretboard. I wouldn't use it on maple. Um, but for conditioning a maple fretboard, you can do that. But I've heard of people using all kinds of stuff. I've heard of people using Murphy's oil soap, which you can get at the grocery store. Big bottle of that for $2 or $3. That'll last you forever. Or lemon, even a small bottle of lemon oil, isn't that expensive. My favorite is the Music Nomad F oil. That's the one that I like the most, because that one you can use on any style fretboard, and it seems to do a really, really good job of conditioning fretboards and last a long. A bottle of it will last. I bought my first bottle almost probably 8 or 9 years ago, and I just replaced it like a year or two ago, so they last forever. Let's see. Actually, something victory. Jack Attack says ABY pedal. Best ABY pedal. The Morleys are actually pretty good. I think the best ones are probably the radials. The radial stuff, but those are also they're also a little pricier. The Lely, I think, is that brand. Kind of spelled where HLE or LEIHLE. It's I'd have to look it up. I don't recall, but they make some ABY switches and stuff. They're also pretty good. Like I said, the Morley ones are a pretty decent option, especially for a little bit more affordable. And I don't really run into a situation where I use it much, but I've got a Electro Harmonics Switchblade Plus that seems to get the job done. Mikey Gabbard says that the fretboard had never been oiled. I put a little extra, let it sit for a minute, then I rub it with a normal cloth rag. And if I got a real dry fretboard, I'll cover the fretboard in oil, and then not just a fairly light coating, and then I'll let it sit for 5 or 10 minutes to give it a chance to soak down in there. And depending on how dry it is at that point, then I'll wipe off. I'll wipe off the excess, and I may do it again, just to get it. Just to get it set up and properly conditioned. You do run into that from time to time on import guitars, depending on how long they've been sitting in a warehouse overseas or on a boat or something. Sometimes rosewood fretboards tend to get dried out a little more. Now, let's see. Anarcho-Lutheorist is here. Conway Hambone. No one is awake. Anybody else? The Edge of Eternity 101. Welcome to you all. Thanks for coming to hang out for a bit. No one is awake says, do Floyd Rose systems need to be set up by a pro? Mine is a bitch. They can be. Floyd Rose tremolos and Floyd Rose style tremolos can be very, very frustrating if you don't know how to set them up. And honestly, it took me years to wrap my brain around how to do it. And it's a great big balancing act between the springs on the back and your strings, the tension on your guitar strings. And if you look at it, especially when you're in the middle of setting it up, before you have everything locked down, if you look at it funny, you can throw the whole thing out of whack. So what I recommend is taking it into your local shop and have a tech set it up properly for you, and stand over and watch him. Ask questions, ask him what he's doing while he's doing it. And that honestly, that was how I learned, because Tony's been doing it for years, and he can set one of those things up with his eyes shut at this point. I had struggled with him for years, and finally I stood over him while he set up one of my guitars for me, and and asked him what he was doing, and he showed me a few tricks that he was using. The one thing that you want to do with a Floyd Rose is, you want to block the tremolo, put something underneath it to keep it from, you don't want to, when you go to take the strings off and you go to replace it and set it up, you don't want the tremolo to get pulled all the way down into the cavity by the springs on the back. So you need to put something underneath it there to make sure that it stays level. And what Tony taught me is go to Walmart, get those little school, like the red erasers. You can buy like a 3-pack of those things, for like $1, and those things fit underneath it in that spot. Pardon me. Those things fit underneath that tremolo really, really well, and they're just the right height. And so stick one of those underneath the tremolo before you go and cut the strings off of it. That'll stabilize the tremolo where you want it to be while you're putting new strings on it and setting it back up. So Tony taught me that, and yeah, like I said, I just stood over him and watched him do it, a few times and asked questions, and then lo and behold, I finally figured out how to do it and how they work on my own. But it took me a while, and it was frustrating. Mikey Gabbard says they wouldn't use any type of string lube. I'm thinking of getting some fast fret or a similar product. I always like the finger ease, the aerosol spray. As you can spray the strings real quick, and then you spray the back of the neck, take a polish rag and wipe it up, up and down, and off you go. And I always had real good luck with that. A lot of people like the finger ease stuff because they don't like the aerosol part of that, but I'm sorry, not the finger, the fast fret is the rub-on kind. I always have a problem with those things drying out, though. Pedalboards of Doom says ABY pedals break a lot. It's a shame, and that is true, and that's another reason why another advantage of the radials. The radial stuff is the radio builds their stuff like tanks. If you've ever seen any of their DI boxes, their ABY boxes are built just as well. And Cole dropped a super chat down there for me, formerly Big Cole. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Says, thank you as usual, Robert. I don't know what I did, but you're welcome. Doc Amos Roxy says, of using a stereo output pedal, do both sides go into just cab or combo amp? Well, stereo output pedal, like, for example, if you got a reverb pedal or something at the end of your chain, if you're using the stereo output, that's generally one output is going to be going to, each output would be going to two different amps, i.e. for a stereo rig. So, generally what it's used for, I've used them, for recording purposes here. Well, I'll run a cable from each output into two inputs on my interface and record two different tracks, two different mono tracks of the same thing, and then so essentially it's true stereo, and then blend them left to right. I usually go, full pan left and right when I do that, but yeah, generally used for stereo purposes. I'm not a real big fan. I like recording stereo tracks like that. Because that also can be cool for blending two of them together. Like if you want to EQ the same EQ do two different sides of a stereo track, you can EQ them a little bit differently and get some pretty cool results. But for like a stereo live rig, I've never understood the point, because while it does create a really cool effect, particularly with like delays and tremolos and like warbly sounding effects because they bounce back and forth. Unless especially if you're playing in a big venue, unless you're sitting in the audience right in the middle, if you're one side or the other, you're not going to hear the stereo effect anyway. And honestly, even if you are sitting right in the middle, the sound guy almost always makes it mono for the other, almost mix it mono anyway, just because, like I said, you're not, it's too hard to hear it if you're not dead center in the middle of it. Great Thrasher says, I bought a pack of Ernie Ball Wonder Wipes. I really like those. I've actually been using those a lot lately. The one, they've got the lemon oil, the polish, or the fretboard conditioner, I guess, which is lemon oil, the polish, and the string conditioner. I've actually been using the Ernie Ball wipes quite a bit because they're cheap. I mean, God, you can buy a box of 6 of them for like $2, and one of those wipes, the fretboard conditioners especially, you can do 2 or 3 or 4 guitars with one of those wipes. So they do go a long way. Casey Strange with the super chat. Thank you so much for the super chat donation. I appreciate it. Says, what are your favorite Seymour Duncan pickups, and can you do a top 10 video of your favorite pickups? My favorite Seymour Duncan pickup is the JB model, particularly when paired with the Jazz model in the neck. That is, not only is that my favorite Seymour Duncan pickup, but that's my favorite pickup set, period. I love that pickup set. It's also Seymour Duncan himself's favorite pickup set, and has been, the JB and the Jazz have been used by so many different people, and Duncan even sells the two as a set together, called the Hot Rodded Humbucker set. Those are my favorite. Man, God, what are your, if I've learned the hard way, man. Doing videos based on pickups are really, they always tank for me. Anytime I do a video on pickups, they always tank. Because it's the niche. It's the niche guitar players who love to mod their shit all over the place, that are into those. And, and unfortunately that, not everybody is into that kind of stuff. And while I've certainly swapped out pickups on guitars and stuff before in the past, it's not something that, it's not my favorite thing to do. Especially the older I get, if I don't like the pickups that come in a guitar, I'll bypass the guitar altogether and find something else, So, a top 10 video, your favorite, I may not, and the other thing about those is, there's so many different styles of pickups, of course you can go, there's humbucker, there's single coil, there's P90s, there's actives, there's passives, there's active preamps, high output, low output, output somewhere in the middle, then you got the custom shop stuff from all those companies. We'd have to narrow it down to a specific category, and I'm not saying I won't ever do it, but I'm saying it's one that I'd have to give a lot of thought to. Doc Amos Roxy says, so as old guy from Acoustic World learning electric, should I quit buying amps and just plug in computer programs, old-fashioned? Well, first, Doc, thank you very much for the super chat. Very, very much appreciated. Getting into the virtual amp world is, it can be beneficial, because there's no hardware to worry about lugging around. There's more software. You can, like if you can download, here's probably the best advice I can give you. Download the IK Multimedia Amplitube, I think it's called the Custom Shop. That's the free version of Amplitube, and it's basically all of their own amp models, and they actually do sound really good. I mean, they've got some good amp models in there. They just don't have a Marshall or a Mesa Boogie or something, orange actual orange logo on them. They're they're proprietary stuff, but they do have a lot of amps in that program that sound really good. And that one you don't necessarily have to run into a DAW. You can run that one standalone. So I would say download that for free and try it out and see what you think. And then that'll kind of help you make the decision. I even when I'm recording, sometimes I use virtual amps. I really like the free amp sim that Fluff put out with ML Sound, I think is the name of the company. He put out a signature amp simulator, and they gave it was like 4 of his amps that they modeled, and they gave one of them away for free. And I downloaded that, and I actually did a demo of that on my channel a while back. Tony guest starred in that video, and that amp by itself actually I really like. Sounds really really good. So some of them do sound better than others. The IK multimedia stuff does have a lot of stuff that sounds real good. I find that they are a little bit dialing in a virtual amp, especially through a pair of studio monitors, is a little bit different than dialing in a head going into your favorite 212 cab or whatever it may be. So, should you start going virtual as opposed to sticking with actual analog amplifiers? It difficult. I certainly can't make that decision for you or anybody else, but I would it's worth a try. With technology advancing the way it is today, you may like it. So. Nowadays you can download so many amp sims for free or for nominal cost. You can actually come up with a pretty big stash of amplifiers. Joel Bateman says, I prefer Kahler. I actually do too, believe it or not. Kahler over Floyd Rose. The problem is, Floyd Rose seems to be the more popular of the two, and you can't just, it's not nearly as easy as it used to be to find a guitar that comes with a Kahler on it. Matter of fact, I can't even think of anything that's on the market right now off the top of my head that has a Kahler. Non-existent human says, is it worth buying old rack gear? Is it better to get cheap pedals or pedals that would do the same as an older rack? It depends on the rack gear, I think. Some of those older Digitech units are suddenly gaining popularity again. A lot of the old Digitech stuff is suddenly gaining popularity. I think a lot of people are, like me. I'm certainly not not innocent in this at all. I dismissed most of it for so long, and now that I'm going back and trying a lot of it, like the Screamin' Blues, stuff like that, I'm discovering that holy shit, this stuff actually sounds pretty good. And a lot of people are coming to the same realization about the older rack gear, the old Digitech rack gear stuff. Anyway, the old Art processors are cool. The technology on those is on that stuff is it's old. It's old, and it doesn't sound like it's if you're looking for a cheap version of a Fractal, or a Kemper or something like that you're not going to get that with those. But they do have a certain characteristic about them, that dates to the era that they were made. And so, if it's that 80s or 90s type of sound that you're after, then yeah, absolutely, you can pick up a lot of that stuff real cheap. That said, the advantage, to cheap pedals, older cheap pedals is, they seem to integrate with modern gear a little bit more, a little bit better. And, they're never going to go obsolete for that reason. So, and racks full of gear are big and heavy, and they can get if you play out live. Don't be surprised if you get tired of lugging that some bitch around everywhere. I used a rack for a while, and it didn't take long for me to figure out how to dump it and just stick with a pedal board. Doc Amos Roxy says, I have a combo DSL and matching cab. How do I use stereo, or can I with the setup? To my knowledge, you cannot. Unless combo in a cab. You'd have to have a preamp or something to split one to go into the cab with. And then run the combo separately. Another amp on top of the cab, or a preamp or something to go into it first. Be the only way that I can think of how to do it. Any opinions on video game music? Any favorites? Oh, some of the classic stuff. I'll tell you, I have a Duke Nukem soundtrack, and the opening track on that CD is a Megadeth Duke Nukem theme song, and it rocks, man. I love that track. I love that jam. As far as like the music itself that's actually appeared in video games, the old Final Fantasy stuff. I love Final Fantasy VII. I haven't played the remake yet. I actually saw it's somebody had it on sale on Amazon here right now, so I may very well end up downloading that this weekend. But yeah, there's some stuff, that there's some old video game music that, none of it's jumping out of the top of my head right at the moment. But there is definitely some stuff out there that, that you hear once, and, like classical style stuff, and you know exactly where it came from, and where you heard it, and, and if you're like me and, you die a lot when you're playing video games, you probably heard it over and over and over and over and over again. No one is awake says can't stand the different faces John Mayer makes while he's squeezing his $25,000 PRS. Yeah. He is actually, my understanding is his ego is actually back, as actually not nearly as bad as he used to be. I read an interview with him, a couple years back, where he actually said, his ego his ego when he was younger damn near torpedoed his career. And, so he seems to have pulled his head out of his ass and learned some humility. And I also, I have a picture on my phone of John Mayer playing at Jackson. And I love to go into the groups, the P-Dub groups that all worship that guy, but they're all the same groups that that hate Jackson guitars, because they're not Fenders, and post that photo and then watch them all go, well, Jacksons aren't that bad. Sorry. Mikey Gabbard says, a lot of video game people I know praise Sega for its sound chip. I don't like it at all. I was a Nintendo guy growing up until the first PlayStation came out, and I've been a PlayStation guy ever since. I've owned all four of them. I wish I still had my original one and my PS2. Still have my PS3. My PS4 is what I use now. Kobe says top worst pickups. We get healthy dose of those disgusted expressions you're so good at, Robert. Oh man, there are. If honestly, if I did that, I mean that when I could see that video turning into another Gibson bashing video, because I mean there's certainly pickups out there that I don't like, but there's pickups that I really don't like. It's most of the Gibson burst buckers. The burst bucker 1, 2, and the 3 especially. I don't like any of those. Burst bucker Pro is good. I like the Pro a lot. The burst bucker 1, 2, and 3. I hate all three of them. Mitchell Tilly, give me a second here, guys, while I get caught up here in the chat. Mitchell Tilly says, I'm looking for a new practice amp, and I'm still kind of a beginner. Any suggestions? I'd have to go Boss Katana if I were you. The Katana 50 probably be the way that I would go. If you don't go with the Katana 50, the 112 combo is, what are they, $239 or something like that? They're not very expensive. If you don't want to spend that much, then probably probably Line 6 Spider 5. The Spider 5 Mark II, rather, which is the current line that's out. There is, I want to say, don't get the little one that's like $129. I'd spend a little bit more, $150, $200 if you can. But Boss Katana probably be up there, and a lot of people are raving about that new Positive Grit Spark. It's not my thing. I'm not going to try it out, but a lot of people seem to be real big on it. You're probably going to have a tough time getting a hold of one right now because it's been a hot item this year, and the pandemic hasn't helped. But that amp's getting a lot of buzz here the last couple of months. Rob, Lee, you ought to know more than anybody that I hate when people call me Rob, but because I like you, I'm going to read the rest of this. Would you go down the Kemper route? Not likely. They sound great. They do lots of stuff that are very, very practical. The practical things in today's market. Especially for what I do. I could just mount it right there. I hate processors, not because they sound fine, they sound, and for a lot of people they sound really good, but I hate dialing the goddamn things in. I can't dial them in. I can't, I'm terrible at getting them dialed in right. And then when it comes to saving presets and recalling presets and and all that kind of stuff, it just makes you, if I had any hair, I'd pull it out. So, not likely. They're processors. They're just not for me. Just not for me. It's that's what I like about tube amps. Tube amps are never gonna go obsolete. Really, the same is true with a lot of solid state amps. They're never gonna go obsolete. Six String Badger says, thanks for recommendation of Agile guitars. I bought an AL3200 MCC Les Paul, and I love it. That's a killer guitar, man. I think that's the 3200. I want to say is the Les Paul custom model. I believe, I could be wrong. But the AL stands for Agile Les Paul. then they all got a number or something after them, and then it gets tough for me to remember which is which. But regardless, they're excellent guitars. Excellent guitars. I reached out to them a long time ago to see if they'd be interested in me doing a demo for them, but at that time they weren't interested. And I was, my channel was quite a bit smaller at that time too. But maybe I'll try them again. I'd love to. Those. You're right. They're great guitars. Doc Amers Roxy. Oh, damn it, I scrolled down. There it is. Says, think about old gear. If it sounded good then, it will today for 20 to 50 bucks. If it sucked then, it will now. I don't know that I agree with that. There's a meme that's been going around on the internet forever now. Not forever, but for several years. It says... it's got a picture of this dude playing a guitar, with a Kemper, with a picture of a Kemper right in front of him. Said, "Look, it sounds just like the real thing." And then right next to it, this picture says 20 years ago, exact same picture, exact same dude playing the exact same guitar, but on this it's got a Line 6 pod, the kidney bean looking thing, right in front of it, with the dude saying, "Look, it sounds just like the real thing." So. They don't, I don't know if that translates for everything, because that pod, I never liked it. I never liked the Line 6 pod, but when it came out, it was a big deal. Now you can't give those goddamn things away. But yeah, the best judge for any of that is going to be your ears. If you like the sound of it, get it. Mikey Gabbard says, Robert, you ever get a Golden Chocobo? I did. I got the Golden Chocobo, and I never, I have to admit, I didn't complete the game because it was either Ultimate Weapon or Ruby Weapon that I couldn't get past. Whichever, I think it was Ultimate Weapon, the one that was underwater, the one that was down the bottom of the ocean. I spent weeks trying to beat that goddamn thing, and he kept kicking my ass over and over and over again, and I couldn't get past him. And eventually I got tired of trying, and told myself I'd come back to it one day, and then got distracted with something else. I never did. Nowadays, the way video games are made nowadays, though, I mean, they all seem, they seem to all be, be made a little bit more with the intention of, eventually you can get past this part. I think that they want you to be able to finish it. Bellborn to Doob says, get FF7 remake. I think I'm gonna. Crazy Crook 678 says, are you ever going to buy a Crate Blue Voodoo again? Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. A good buddy of mine texted me this week and said our local, well, I'm not going to say where, in case there's anybody here local that checks us out. There is a shop here local that has a pair of them, at least they did earlier this week. A 60 and a 120 for the 100 and, for the two, he said they were about the 250 price range. And I don't really I don't need it, but I'm kicking it around. I may get in the car, drive down there this afternoon, and go see if they're there. I do happen to have a few bucks in my sock drawer that I can throw at it. So I may take a couple of, like some of the smaller amps, that I made, and I'm likely not going to use again. I don't know, maybe not. I would like to have a Blue Voodoo again. I've regretted selling that amp ever since. David B says, how would you compare the Line 6 Verbzilla to the Polera? Ooh. I like the Polera better. That said, I do own a Verbzilla, and those tone core Line 6 tone core pedals are, I've kind of got a real love-hate relationship with, because I mean they're built like tanks. George Tripp's designed all those. They're built really, really well. And at the time that they came out, they were pretty cool. I have the metal. What do they call it? This is the metal, not the metal core. I can't remember. I've got the metal distortion one, and then the regular rock distortion one called the Crunch Tone. And I pulled both of those back out about 6 months or so ago. I don't remember what I was using them for, and ran them together, not at the same time, but in the same chain, and I wasn't impressed with the sound of either one of them. Now, the modulation pedals, on the other hand, a little bit different. The Echo Park out of that series, they got that one right, and the Verbzilla, they got that one right. It is a really, really good reverb. I found it to be a little bit tougher to dial in than the Polera, though. That Polera is a killer reverb pedal. Killer reverb pedal. I hated, Park let me borrow his to demo on my channel about a year ago. I hated sending that thing back to him. Joel Bateman says, I'm getting PS4 soon. You might want to consider saving your money because the PS5 is going to be out before too long, I think. I don't know what the release date is yet. Are they trying to get that out for the holiday season this year? It might, or I can't remember if it's this year or if they're talking next year. I know they're going to launch around the holiday season. I assume it's going to be this year. That's when they make most of their money. Mikey Gabbert says, at the time, PS2 was the best value for just a DVD player. It was. It was my first DVD player, as a matter of fact. Kobe says, top worst cabinet amps and effects. You guys love those top worst videos, but a lot of people that aren't subscribers to this channel really hate me for them. I had a lot of people whining about the last one. Hey, High Voltage Beaver's here. Skilled Rook is here. Topher Taylor. As I'm scrolling down the chat here. Skilled Rook says, I've been practicing with a metronome and I can alternate pick 105 BPM. Good for you. Good for you. Alternate picking is a very, very lucrative skill, and one that most experienced guitar players, I think, take for granted. And honestly, I have my good days and my bad days with it. Mikey Gabbert says, I don't like the Behringer 412 cabinet at all. Neither do I. Crazy Crook says the Sparks are in stock and shipping in 5 days right now. Now that's okay. Good to know. Maybe you can get your. Those things are only $100, aren't they? $99? Or are they more than that? I don't know. Six String Badger says, I'm looking at a used Agile Hornet Flying V. It looks cool, but the seller warns about a fret buzzing issue. Could be that the guy selling it doesn't know how to set it up properly. Could be it's got a twisted neck. If it's got a twisted neck, there's no coming back from that. Kobe Out says, now that I think about it, would Harley Benton amps and speaker cabs be appropriate for the dungeon? Cabs would. They've got a, they're they've got an actual, their 212 vintage 30 cab is a really, really good sounding cabinet. I don't need cabs. I don't need cabs. I've got, what do I have? I've got my Seismic Audio 212 that I loaded with the Warehouse Guitar Speakers Veteran 30s. That's the one I use the most. I got my Marshall 1960. I've got my Panama 212 Tonewood cab that's got a pair of Alnico, that one's got the 212 has the greenback clones in it, and the 412 Prometheus cab has two of those greenback clones and two of the Alnico blue clones in it. And then I got a couple of smaller, tiny little cabs laying around here. I don't need cabs. And if I got another cab, I don't know. I'm not sure I'd know where the hell I'd put it anyway. Park Kingery says, I remember that boss. That was a bitch to beat. Yes, it was. I never did figure that one out. Papa Blue is here. Says, what do you think of Sterling Access guitars? I think all the Sterling guitars are pretty solid, man. I mean, I think they're a fantastic bang for your buck right now. Very, very good value. They are, yeah. I mean, are they building them as nice as the U.S. stuff? In a blindfold test, I think there's some of them, especially those new Sterling Majesties that came out. If you ignore the lack of the piezo on the Sterling models, blindfold test, I don't know that you'd be able to tell much of a difference. Yeah. Music Man are making the best quality guitars for the money on the planet right now. I know I said that earlier about Schecter, but regarding the import stuff, but for the USA stuff, nobody's beating Music Man right now. Haven't been for a long time. Pedalboards of Doom says Underwater was the Emerald weapon. The key is linking a maxed last act materia with a maxed Phoenix summon and the multi-hit materia with Knights of the Round. I hit that, man. That was the thing, man. I had the Knights of the Round materia and everything, and I was hitting him with everything that of course, God, it's 20-some years ago now, but I remember hitting that some bitch with everything I could, everything I had, including the Knights of the Round, and I couldn't, I just couldn't get past him. I'll try it again one of these days. J.M. Page says, Tom Scholl's Rockman gear, yay or nay? I say yay, actually. Gear's unique because Tom Scholl's designed all of that stuff himself. Matter of fact, most of the gear that he uses, he's designed himself. Boston's first, I think their first album he played through one of his Rockman amps. Was how they recorded that first album. Yeah, no, that's they make cool stuff, man. I've always wanted one of the Tom Scholl's Power Soaks. A buddy of mine was playing in a band years ago, and he had it was him and another guitar player in the same band, and the other guitar player, I think they were both playing through Marshalls, but the other guitar player had a floor full of pedals and stuff in front of him, and he had all kinds of stuff that he was running into that Marshall, and the buddy of mine in particular, Neil was his name. Neil had a JCM 800 dialed like that, and every show they played, everybody would come up to him, and asking him, dude, how did that Marshall sounds awesome? How'd you get that Marshall to sound that good? How does it, and every single time he would give the exact same response. He'd just start laughing, and if he liked you well enough, he'd say, the secret's in the back. Go take a look. And on the back of his 1960 cab, he had took gaff tape and just taped it to the back of the cab. He had a Boss, like a CE5 chorus pedal, and a Tom Scholes Power Soak on the back, running between the head and the cab, and it sounded killer, man. I've always wanted to have one of those. Hey, Christopher Morrow's here. Says, sorry I'm late. Oh, sweat, dude. Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. Crazy Cook 678 says, love all your videos. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Joel Bateman says, the first song I learned was Black Sabbath. Devil's Third. Skilled Rook says, what do you think of Evertunes? My curiosity is piqued. Matter of fact, I keep eyeballing those. I keep eyeballing that new line of BC Rich guitars, and I really, as much as I love the Mockingbirds and the Warlocks and stuff like that, there's a couple. If I buy one of the new BC Riches, I want it to have an Evertune bridge on it, and I want it to have the Fishman Fluence pickups, because I haven't got to try either of them yet, and I'm trying to find one of the new Shredzillas that has both of those features on it, but I don't think they have it out yet. So, or at least my company doesn't carry it, and if they don't carry it, then I'm not buying it. So, but yeah, no, I think they're cool. It's a great concept, and seem to be really, really popular. Modern day Floyd Rose, basically. Chaotic One is here. Says, hey Robert, what do you think about the Monoprice Stage Right 20 watt tube amp? I've heard good things. I haven't played those either, to be honest. I've heard good things as well. I know Daryl Braun. Daryl Braun is raving about those things, man. I think he's demoed a few of those on his channel, and God, those things are cheap. Like, tube amps for, like good sounding tube amps for what, 150, 200, 250 bucks or something like that, depending on. Yeah, they're getting a lot of good buzz. Gray Thrasher says, Rock You Like a Hurricane is the first song he learned. First song I learned was... First riff I learned was You're in Love by Rat. Or no, I'm sorry, Lack of Communication. No? I think I learned both of them. They're actually pretty similar. That was the first riff I learned. The first song that I learned front to back was Purple Haze. And then eventually, not too long after that, I learned Nirvana. Smells Like Teen Spirit, front to back, because everybody my age was learning Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit when it came out. Don B says, hi, Robert, thinking of buying a Schecter P1 Special. Any thoughts? I'm not familiar with that one, actually. What is the P1 Special? If it's Schecter, I would never tell anybody not to buy a Schecter. Yeah. Okay, why is my computer lagging so much? P1 Special or PT Special? PT Special, that's the Tele model, I think. Yeah, that's the Tele model with the P90 style pickup in the neck. Yeah, good guitars, man. They're built well. If I'm looking at the right one anyway, those are if I'm looking at the right one, those, if you're looking for a Tele style guitar, you could do worse. Anthony Baltuzzo says got laid off last Tuesday. Sorry to hear that, man. That sucks, especially in this world. The current world we're living in, anyway. Joel Bateman says Dean Kerry King Flying V is $8,000. Yes, it is. Dean's proud of that one. Dean are proud of that one. They Dean, they'll do what they do, what they did with all the Dimebag models. They make a couple of the really expensive ones. They make the expensive ones to sell the imports that they expect to sell a lot of. Because especially young teenagers and younger players that are a fan of Kerry King, that they get, he plays, this is the version he plays, this is I'm going to play a guitar that looks like his, and it works. That's been a marketing formula for guitar companies for decades. Crazy Cook 678 says I have an LTD with an Evertune on it, and I love it. And Rat is one of my favorites. I'm a big Rat fan as well. I've seen him live 4 or 5 times or something like that. Fortunately, I have every time I've seen him live has been with Stephen Pearcy. As much of a douchebag as that guy is, I don't I don't know that I would want to see Rat with any other lead singer. I've seen both Stephen Pearcy and Warren DeMartini. Every time. I wouldn't want to see Rat without either one of those guys. The last time I saw them, though, they had, was it Reb Beach? No, they had John Corabi that was playing rhythm guitar for him, which is pretty cool. I didn't know John Corabi was that good of a guitar player. I knew he was a real good singer. He sang on my favorite Motley Crue record. I didn't know he was that good of a guitar player, too. Koya says Evertune had a price jump at the beginning of the year. Basically, retrofitting one is no longer cost effective. Yeah. That tends to happen when a company's product catches fire. All of a sudden, they realize we got something. Doc Ames Roxy says first acoustic tune all the way was Seven Bridges Road. First electric all the way was Time. Seven Bridges Road. What a great song, man. What a great song. Written by Steve Young from California. Not the quarterback. Alrighty. Well, fellas, we've been at this for over 2 hours now, and I got a split. I got a couple videos to upload, and I got to do some yard work, and I'm still pondering a trip down to Sam Ash. Oh, shit. I wasn't supposed to tell you. Okay, well, now you guys know. So I'm still... I got some things on my plate that I got to get taken care of here today. But, yeah, man, thanks for everybody. Thanks for coming to hang out. And, those of you that supported the channel via Super Chat, thank you so much. If you weren't on when I talked about this earlier, if you would also like to support the channel, click that link up there at the top of the chat, that pinned link there to my Teespring shop, and pick yourself up a t-shirt. And enjoy. Great quality t-shirts, and like I said, helps you get a t-shirt, helps me, helps support the channel, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Adios, guys.